Welcome back, everyone, to Between the Verses.
Thanks for being here with us again. And if you're new here, what on earth took you so long? Just kidding. We're really glad you found us.
This is a space where we just talk. Short and hopefully sweet conversations about faith, the Bible, and everyday life. We try to do it honestly and thoughtfully.
And today, we're talking about something I think about a lot. We're talking about wisdom.
And specifically, how it's different from just being smart. Because they aren't the same thing, are they?
Not at all. I mean, being smart, we all kind of know what that means, right? It's about knowing things, having the information, having the answers.
Winning at trivia night.
Yeah. It's about facts and what you know. But wisdom feels different. It's less about what you know and much more about how you live.
So, not just about accumulating facts, but about applying them with understanding and grace. You can have a PhD and still make foolish life choices. Conversely, I've met people with very little formal education who are incredibly wise. They know how to navigate complex relationships, how to be content and live with integrity. That's a different kind of intelligence altogether. It's more about character than just raw data in your head.
You know, there's a moment in the Bible that I think perfectly defines this for me. It's with King Solomon.
Oh yeah, right, when he becomes king.
Yes. So he's just taken the throne, and God comes to him and essentially asks, "What do you want? Ask for whatever you want me to give you."
Which is just, what a question. A blank check from God. He could have asked for anything.
Right. Success, power, a long life, victory over all his enemies. The list is endless. But he doesn't ask for any of that. Instead, Solomon asks for wisdom. And he's so specific about it too. He asks for the ability to discern between right and wrong, so he can govern his people well, so he can choose wisely.
That choice is interesting because it shows wisdom is something deeply practical. It's not this big, impressive, flashy thing. It's necessary. It's a tool for living, for leading.
And that word wisely is doing so much work there. Solomon isn't asking to be clever in a manipulative way. He's asking for discernment, the ability to see clearly and envision ripple effects of a decision, not just an immediate outcome.
And that's what makes God's response so striking. He's pleased. In the first book of Kings, he says, "Because you have asked for this and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have you asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked." God honors the pursuit of wisdom over power.
So different from how we think about things today, right? In modern life, we almost always reward being smart over curious. We value quick thinking, fast responses.
Especially online.
Oh gosh, especially there. Strong opinions, delivered immediately. Confidence without much reflection, or accountability.
But wisdom doesn't really work on that instant level. Wisdom slows things down. It listens, weighs things up. Sure, we can all have a light bulb moment every now and then where we think we've got it all figured out, but even an enlightening moment like that usually comes from experiences that already existed inside us. So I think having wisdom slows us down and makes us more preoccupied by, say, consequences than outcome.
Being thoughtful, in other words?
Yeah, taking the long view. And what I love about Solomon's request is that it's not about him. It's not for his own ego, but to serve his people well. It's about justice, about community, about leadership that benefits others. It's not a selfish pursuit.
Which strongly links the notion of wisdom to concepts of justice and responsibility, and in stark contrast to ego-driven leadership.
Which is something Jesus models constantly, isn't it?
Constantly. Think about how often people come to him with questions, and they're usually not genuine questions. They're traps.
Right, they're trying to corner him.
And instead of just giving a direct, clever answer, which he obviously could have, he almost always responds with another question.
That's so true. Like when they ask him about paying taxes to Caesar. It's a perfect trap. If he says yes, he's a Roman sympathizer. If he says no, he's a rebel.
And it's not because he doesn't know the answer. It's because he understands that the question underneath their question is what really matters.
And his response is genius. He asks for a coin, points to Caesar's image on it, and says, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." He completely sidesteps the trap and in the process gives a much deeper answer about allegiance and priorities.
He's not playing their game. Wisdom isn't always about winning the conversation. Sometimes it's about redirecting.
It's true because it reframes the whole debate. The Pharisees wanted a simple yes or no that fit into their political framework, but Jesus offers a transcendent both and. He acknowledges earthly authority while reminding them of their ultimate divine allegiance. That's wisdom. It doesn't just solve the problem, it reveals a deeper truth.
It changes the focus. That feels very different from how conversations work today. There have been times when I've said something, online mainly, that was technically correct, but maybe unhelpful or poorly timed. In those moments, I was being smart, but not wise.
Wisdom often shows up after the moment passes, when you realize what would have helped more, not just what would have sounded better. Oh, I've been there, 100%.
Being smart but not wise, it often shows up in the rearview mirror. A feeling when you realized what would actually have helped more, not just what would have sounded better. It's a painful realization, isn't it? To know you had the right information but didn't know what to do with it.
Yes, that delayed realization. It's humbling. You know, this makes me think of another story Jesus tells, the one about the two builders.
The one who builds on the rock and the one who builds on the sand.
Exactly. So in the Gospel of Matthew, there's a part where Jesus is right at the end of one of his longest teachings. The crowd listening to him includes ordinary people, religious leaders, followers, skeptics, all sorts. He's been talking about how to live, how to treat people, how to handle anger, generosity, etc., etc. Really practical, everyday stuff. But instead of wrapping it up with a neat summary, he tells this short but powerful story about two builders. And then he turns to the people standing right in front of him and says, in effect, "Everyone who hears these words of mine..."
And he describes two kinds of people in that crowd. Both heard the same words, both take it in.
But only one takes what he's heard and actually puts it into practice.
And that's the builder who builds on rock. It's slower, harder, requires digging down. The longer view.
And the other hears the words but doesn't let them shape anything beneath the surface. He builds on sand, which probably looks fine at first until the storm comes. And Jesus says the storm will come to both houses, not just one.
So he's not saying wisdom keeps you from difficulty or pain. He's saying wisdom prepares you for it.
Yes, when pressure hits, when life gets chaotic, that's when the foundation finally shows.
And I think that ties straight back to what we were saying earlier about being smart versus being wise.
Totally. Being smart is hearing the words, but wisdom is actually letting them change how you live, how you speak or respond, how you treat people when it costs you something.
Wisdom is about building your life in a way that lasts.
And that means you can be incredibly smart, a genius even, and still build your entire life on sand, if that wisdom never moves from just a thought into an action. The sand represents a life built on fleeting things, public opinion, quick wins, intellectual pride. The rock is the application of truth, the slow and steady work of character building. It's not glamorous, but it's durable.
That's a sobering thought. It means knowledge isn't the finish line.
Not at all. I think wisdom asks different kinds of questions than intelligence does. Wisdom asks things like, what will this choice cost me later on?
Yeah, or how will this affect the people around me?
And maybe the biggest one, what kind of person is this action making me become?
Oof, yeah. And those questions, they are so much slower. They're less exciting than just having a quick, smart answer, but they're so much more honest.
More honest, yeah. There's a real humility to wisdom when you look at it this way. I'm thinking back to Solomon. He didn't ask to be admired. He asked to be able to choose well for the sake of others.
And Jesus never tries to dominate conversations. He invites people into reflection. He draws them in. He lets silence do some of the heavy lifting.
He lets silence do the work. I love that. In our everyday lives, then, wisdom might look a lot less impressive than we think. It might just look like not needing to have the last word in an argument.
Or waiting a full day before responding to that angry email. Or just choosing restraint when every part of you wants to prove that you're right. And those choices, man, they do not always feel satisfying in the moment. It feels much better to fire back that email.
For sure, but they are the choices that tend to hold up better over time. They build on rock.
And so, dear listeners, remember our take on this. Being smart can open doors for you. That's true. But wisdom is what helps you walk through them well and stay in the room.
And also, wisdom isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing how to live with what you do know.
Yes, and it's not something you're just born with. It grows. It grows through listening, through patience, through a lot of experience and making mistakes.
Sure does. And going back to that builder story, building on rock is often invisible at first. No one sees the foundation you're laying. And the making mistakes part is crucial. Intelligence often tries to avoid mistakes at all costs. But wisdom knows that mistakes are where the deepest learning happens. Wisdom is forged in failure and refined by humility. It's about learning to fail forward.
That's so true.
But it's what holds everything together when life inevitably gets loud.
It is. Well, thank you all for spending this time with us today. Time for us to bid farewell.
Let's keep talking, discussing, and learning together. Until next time, take care of yourselves.
And we'll see you between the verses.